Now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar titled Cross-Functional Teams Excellence. In just a moment, I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. She's an experienced entrepreneur who's been recognized as an influential local and national leader with over 25 years of experience in driving peak performance and personal growth through crisis and transitions. And as a Six Sigma Black Belt and behavioral style expert, her leadership, speaking, and coaching style is dynamic, motivational, and impactful, and we're really honored to welcome Hannah Bauer here today. Hannah, you now have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good night. For some of you that are joining us from across the globe, it is my pleasure to be here with you. And wow, what a great showing we have. And thank you so much for the invitation for New Horizons and really the great programs that they have going on. Definitely got to check them out. Today, as we are discussing cybersecurity this month, yes, we are going to be talking about cross-functional teams excellence, about how does this all go and integrate? You know, what does it have to do with the different areas of influence really that we have as we come up with solutions? So today I have the pleasure to really get to talk to you about what cross-functional teams excellence is. And really what we're going to discuss here is how to failure-proof your cross-functional teams without decreasing morale, even if your group is stuck in tunnel vision and you don't have clarity which way to go. A lot of times when we were putting together the teams and the energy, the subject matter experts that are there, well, sometimes we just can't come together on exactly what is it that we're trying to accomplish or how is it that we're going to work through this. A little behind about me, just like Mike mentioned, I have about 25 years of leadership. I love to serve, and I've had the privilege to be able to have that opportunity to do so with very many organizations, and right now really have been able to now impact other students. And through the Baldrige, which is an excellence framework, I'm going to be showing a bit of that, but also through the Six Sigma, where we're looking for accuracy, but most of all in the human behavior aspect. I've had the privilege really to be committed to that love and excellence so that we can take alignment and be able to take that massive action, and that leads to innovation that was going to change the world. So for today, a few objectives. Now, as we're talking about cross-functional teams, this has a lot of different dynamics in it. So today we're really going to focus on a few things, really on the foundational part. We're going to start with, well, what is a cross-functional team? For those of you, some of you may have been working in cross-functional teams, or we've heard the word silos. I know it's coming more popular. What is that about? And also, when we're talking about excellence, are we talking about perfection? Is that really what it is? Are we looking to be perfect? Well, we'll look into that as well. Then how do we build them? What is the foundation as we're going to be continuing with our growth in cross-functional teams, the need for cross-functional teams, and how do we grow through them, sustain them, and of course, failure-proof them, because we want to succeed. And that is one thing. You were born to win, but in order to win, you must prepare to win, plan to win, and then and only then can we expect to win. So let's start today, and we are going to look at that framework. What is it that we're talking about exactly here, and take on some action. So when we first started this, the first time I heard the word silos, really, because I keep on hearing that this is like this great enemy, like silo thinking. So, well, what is it? I immediately thought about my farm working years when growing up as a little girl and seeing the silos. And if you see that, it kind of looks like a big structure where you put grain in there, or you actually put any substance that you want to make sure it doesn't have, it's not impacted by the elements from the outside and is kept pure. And you really do that to protect. Well, with our technology, it's gotten better. And if you can see in that picture right there, we have a series of silos. So when we're thinking about silo thinking, and no, we're not talking about farming, but we're talking about silos in the office space. So when we think about, well, what is the workplace silos? Well, that means when you have exclusive teams, just like what we saw in the picture of silos, where they're just talking to one another. The discussion is along the department. You'll hear words like departmental goals, division goals, and very much secluded. Your subject matter experts are there. And just like silos in farming, where we have the pure grain only there, and we just take a little bit out when we need it, and even to make different ingredients, same thing could happen in a workplace silo, where we know exactly what we can get the expertise in. Well, we go to them when we need them. It's good for the subject matter experts. It's good because we would know where to go. And it's actually been a traditional way that a lot of our businesses have operated. However, in the past few years, as we have become a bit more complex and fluid, we are working with different teams, not just in the business, internally with geographically, but we're working across different cultures globally in different markets. And the way that we do work has changed a bit. Not only is it that we're looking at cross-functional teams in terms of what division and department, but even in the function of how we actually operate, how do we interact with the company. So where a workplace silo, the danger of it could come from uncoordinated work and poor customer support, of really not looking at the overall goal. Cross-functional teams is a term that we are now using, and actually it's been in practice for many years, but it's something that we use in order to say that they're groups from different divisions. For example, it can be a team member from the sales, another team member from marketing, design, customer support, HR. So when we talk about cross-functional teams right here in the workplace, we're talking about the different functions. So what function do they serve in the company? Now, it doesn't just mean that they're from one division or the other. Actually, a lot of the cross-functional teams also include people of different seniority level in the companies. So you may have midline managers in there that from the sales department, also with senior level managers, with also executives. Now, something about cross-functional teams is that they can be temporary or they can be a permanent fixture in the company. Sometimes we call them also quality council teams. So what is the difference that we look at it when looking at the functional teams, which would be the silos versus this cross-functional team, is you see in the functional is one group working together, like-minded. If you're doing a software development, they will be like your system analysts together, your developers together, your testers together. But in a cross-functional team, we're talking about integration, where there's representation from various functions. And that's what we talk about when we say cross-functional team, or you can coin a development team. Now, these are great if you're talking about launching a product or if you're talking about entering a new market. This have commonly been used for those. And one of the reasons why as well is because they have really helped in solve the different ambiguous problems, the oncoming changes. Now, somebody from the HR department may be able to foresee problems in the labor force or some challenges that could be affecting the other divisions. So the point of the cross-functional teams is to be able to have more of that improved coordination and integration. Now, in the coordination and integration, again, this is where a lot of the excellence aspect is where it comes in, because we're talking about a framework. Now, when you have the framework as well, something that the cross-functional teams can do that's very well is that they span organizational boundaries. Not only that, but reduction in the production cycle times. And don't we love that when we're able to respond quicker to our customer demands? Not only the outside customer, but also the internal customers. For example, as we're making different changes, working virtually, working from home, working geographically, it is taking a lot of complex issues, and it needs that type of complexity in thinking through multidisciplinary teams. And so something amazing that the cross-functional teams can do is problem solve. And they lead through the decision making. They're able to really come in and look at things from the different ways. Again, for those of you that have worked with other divisions, you see that somebody from finance thinks very different from the IT, thinks different from the HR, thinks different from the person, the customer service or the sales or the marketing. So those were some of the things that are great to bring in. But again, there comes a challenge, right? Now we know it sounds amazing because we see that we can get to the corporate goals. So if the corporate goal is to be first in the market, if it's to be able to attract greater amounts of talent, or different types of talent to be able to grow geographically, to be able to reduce expenses and increase in the quality. These are the groups that you would send these type of problems to, and they will be able to go with it. Again, product development, but not just that. Not only does it make it easier, more clarity in different processes internally, but it makes it easier for them to help the company achieve higher customer satisfaction. And our customers are everything for corporations and any business. So when we're looking at this, teams like, wow, that sounds really good, right? I mean, we have this multidisciplinary teams, we have answers, we already have the talent, we have the thinking, we know where to go. But here come some of the challenges. Now, unlike your regular working teams, a cross-functional team also is under higher level of expectations. Now, did they sign up for higher level of expectations? However, they are expected. It's something that comes with the territory. Now, when you think about a conventional work team, it may be a team that comes together for a project. We get together, it can be, you can have contractors, people from different divisions, departments, and they come together, they accomplish a project, it'll be done. However, when we're looking at cross-functional teams, additionally to getting the project done, they're in getting the task. They're also expected to reduce the cycle time, meaning how the development time, how long does it take for us to do this, and how long does it take for us to get on other projects, how many projects can we handle at once. They also are expected to create some sort of knowledge. We are depending on this team as a company to create the knowledge base, the knowledge management of how we do things. And also, they're expected to disseminate the knowledge throughout the organization. Now that we've had the people that are here, now I expect you as our HR representative to be able to disseminate, this is how we do this part, or this is how, to the finance or to the executive or the senior management, be able to communicate and vocalize what were the changes, what were the processes, what did we learn. So with these teams, of course, why wouldn't we have them, right? Sounds pretty utopian. It sounds amazing. The cross-functional teams, it just seems like that's the way to go. However, there are a bit of bad news. According to the Harvard Business Review, they said that 75% of the cross-functional teams are dysfunctional. Just like with a word that we hear a lot of times with families, right? Do we have different families, different personalities, different goals? Same thing happens in the teams. And what is that criteria that they're looking at when thinking this team may be dysfunctional? Meaning that, quote unquote, they failed to meet a planned budget, stayed on schedule, adhere to specifications, whatever those might be, meeting customer expectations, or maintaining alignment with the company goals. So although we talk about, and we have found very, very good process to be able to like an idea, and perhaps we're doing cross-functional teams not because we want to, but because we have to. We have our workforce everywhere. We need to talk to one another now. The likelihood for success is 25%. So what do we need to do to have that excellence with a true successful idea and really logical way to do this, to be able to serve our customers better, to be able to reduce the cycle time, and to be able to really become the answer and be the answer for the world that our company, our organization has said we are? Well, here's where we go. A systematic approach is needed. Because the neat thing about this is in that study where they found 75% of the cross-functional teams overall failed, when they implemented management, not management in the sense of positional management, but where they implemented high governance and support from the different levels of the organization, they succeeded 76% of the time. So let's take a closer look at what that looks like, okay? What made that difference? What are those changes that we're talking about, and what's really that governance? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it goes back to some of our own internal conflicts as we look at the teams. The going question between perfection and excellence, sometimes used changing it. Oh, it's excellent / perfect, or we need to be perfect, meaning it's excellent. And there is a difference. Now, if you can grab anything out of what we're about to say, this right here made one of the biggest differences in my life. When I realized that my journey to excellence did not mean that it was a journey to being perfect. And don't we all, and everything that we're looking at is coming at us, is like requiring this perfection. We have this one shot. We got to get it right. We can only do this once. You know, we're at the brinks of everything coming down. So when we're looking at this, excellence, and as we're talking about cross-functional teams, excellence, we're talking about a commitment to strive for success versus perfection. Because perfection, what it tells me is fear of failure. Now we know that personally, we are way much more productive when we're going towards something than running away from something. And in this case, the same applies for the teams. Is what are we going towards, not what are we running from? And the difference between that could be minuscule. It's a simple mindset, but it's the same mindset that is going to help your teams, your cross-functional teams, make that difference and create an environment of where they are succeeding. So what does this look like? What is excellence versus perfection? What's the difference with that? Well, in an environment of excellence, confidence is built, whereas in perfection is doubt. Are we going to get this right? Are we not? Are we here? The clarity aspect is asked. In excellence, confidence is built. In the environment of excellence, you're willing to take risks. Risks are celebrated. They're calibrated risks. They're not just anything. But come on, you got subject matter experts. How are they knowing that they can take those risks? In an environment of perfection, there's fear. Can we do this? Can we not do this? Don't want to step on anybody's toes. That's fear. In an environment of excellence, my goodness, powerful. You hear the words empowerment. Excuse me. When you talk about delegation, you're delegating to empower somebody instead of delegating something because you're overworked and you're angry and frustrated. That's an environment of perfection. And excellence, you're willing to be wrong. But in perfection, it's about being right. And there is a difference, my friends, between doing the right thing and doing things right. The difference in how we look at it, the perspective, the accepting. How are we accepting? How are we showing that versus the judgmental? Now, I could take a whole other webinar, just parking it right here on how do we do this in the workplace. But just know that in an environment of excellence, we are accepting and we're not judging. We're not doing the blame game. And in excellence, it's about giving, not taking. This goes back to just, again, fear. In an environment of fear, you're not going to want to share your best things and your best bits because there might be some competitive environment going on. In an environment of excellence is giving, is adding that value and realizing that by you having more value and having the keys, per se, to the kingdom, we are able to come up with greater levels of answers. In an environment of excellence, you're spontaneous, you're working, you're like, okay, we can go here, we can go there, you become more flexible and you're able to respond quicker. Where in perfection, there's a lot of control. The ability to be able to respond may not be there. And again, this also goes personally. And in excellence, you are going because it's flowing. It's a fluid. It's almost it's organic growth. versus imperfections, you're growing, but it's at a pressure. It's this immense level of pressure. So when we're talking about this, okay, Hannah, sounds like a really good, what does excellence have to do with this? Well, for some of you may have heard of this company called Google. Yeah, well, they did a study actually. They were looking at a study where they looked at what made teams being effective. Okay, so they went above and beyond. They took about 180, if I remember this correctly, 180 teams globally across the world. They identified from their executives. They had double-blind projects, surveys where they were asking this question, what is it making you effective, or what is preventing you from being effective? And after all of these answers, globally, across different functionalities, from the top CEOs to the entry-level person, they were asking, what is it that makes what is it about your team? How are you performing? What is it that was going to make that difference between the high and the low performance? And not only did they look at the answers, but they also look at the actual output and productivity. So what did they come up with? Well, they had 5. They had their top 5, and it's just fun to have top 5, right? So on the 5, they looked at, well, what makes a difference with you being effective? And the 5th one, not a bad place, but I mean, out of the 5, the lowest was, well, the impact. I wanted to know that my work mattered. Well, yes, that number 4, they talked about the meaning. How is it personally important to the team members? What does it mean for me to be doing this? Now, the 3rd one was about structure and clarity. I had a clear role and plan and goals. I knew what I needed to do. And in the 2nd one, they said dependability. How were they able to meet the high demands for excellence? In this particular case, it was Google. How were they able to do things? How can they depend on when things were going to be done in time? And the number 1, psychological safety. Now, again, this is coming from all over the world, across Google executives, teams, and the number 1 answer, psychological safety. Wow. This is huge, because what was this about? What was psychological safety about? And this meant this one thing: team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. So as we're talking about teams, and again, you can read more about this online. It's a fascinating study. It's called the Aristotle study by Google. Is looking at the psychological safety. Going back again, the excellence versus perfection. Are we in an environment of excellence? Do I live excellence? Or are we in an environment of perfection? And am I requiring this level of perfection? Now, again, with the perfection and the excellence, looking at it, are you striving for success? Or are you running away from fear of failure or success? Trust me, I've done it both. I have fear of failing and I have fear of succeeding. And let me tell you, at the end of it, it gets me the same thing. Not where I want to be. So let's take a look at this for you. In the psychological safety, this is what it means. And if you talk about in a scale, what was that answer? And it means that if I make a mistake on our team, it is not held against me. Now take a minute, answer this for you. Right now, currently, where you're at, if I make a mistake on our team, it is not held against me. If you're not in a team, how about you can replace that at work? Or what about even family or relationship? The psychological safety aspect. And it's a strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. Now, stay away from the neutral. We're leaders. So you need to either strongly disagree or to strongly agree. And what does this tell me? At the end of this, what is it that this question really gets at, right? And it gets back to the culture that I'm in, the culture that I'm promoting, the culture that I'm operating under. And this is, do we have a culture of learning? Cross-functional teams are going to be innovative. You're looking at them for answers. You're looking at them for new processes. You're looking at them to come up with solutions. Well, if we already had something that was working, we wouldn't be putting them together. So they have the reason why so many of them fail is because they are not at liberty to take the risk, or everyone is holding back for the fear. So how do we go from that position? How do we ensure, like, okay, maybe you have a great team and you're in that environment of learning. How do you maintain and nurture that? And one of the answers for that, and one of the ways that we do it, is through a framework of excellence. Okay, and what this is one from Baldrige, and they actually are seeking to answer 4 questions. And the 4 questions that they do, and this is a methodology. There's also another methodology. A lot of you may be familiar with Agile. Does this. Scrum teams are the way that they're carried out. So when we're looking at a framework of excellence, really we're asking, what is the environment of learning and how are we keeping track of that learning for our teams? So are our processes consistently effective? Do we approach and address how do we approach our organization's needs? Do we address them? How good are our results? Do we have a way to keep track of them? And is our organization learning and improving? Again, we're talking about the organizational learning, and your cross-functional teams are right there on ground zero, the front line of your organization's learning and improving. So how do we build them exactly as we go forward? Because it may be a bit ambiguous. How do we support, nurture these teams? If you are currently in a cross-functional team, what is it that you may need? Maybe perhaps it's like, you know what, I've tried this before. It's just kind of like, it's not moving. Well, and here we are going to just look at the foundational aspect. There's a lot more things that can go in there, but these are kind of like the must-haves for your team to either build a team or to be able to maintain, make sure you have the foundation to build a team from. So you must have team members that are open-minded and highly motivated in these cross-functional teams. They want to be able to get something done. They must come from the functional areas that you need, right? If you need to come answers, you got to make sure those areas are represented. Got to make sure there's a strong leader. Somebody has to be accountable. There is an accountable person that can facilitate the position and authority that is needed. Now, the team must have authority and accountability. You don't just give them the accountability with no authority. That's just mean. Don't do that. We give them themselves the accountability and the authority to be able to accomplish the mission that has been given. And management must provide the adequate resources to support the team, both moral and financial. Moral meaning, hey, you're giving that feedback. And financially, there may be rewards attached to that according to the projects that they're done. If you reduce the cycle time, there may be a way to spread around the savings. And adequate communications must exist. So as you're looking at either building your first cross-functional team or where you're at, perhaps feeling a bit stuck, I don't know what's going on. We have amazing, great people here, and for some reason, we just can't get this moving forward. Take a look at these questions and see if some of them may be able to help you. There's a particular area that you can get help from or be able to help. So out of those, I just want to focus here on the first one, the personal motivators. Because as leaders, and as you know, we are in the center of leadership and development, this personal motivators really starts with you. In order to have this success, the excellence being carried through in cross-functional teams, and it starts right here with you, the leader, as again, and I'm not talking about leader in position because you have a title, I'm talking about leader as far as what you're helping do and coming up with the solutions. So personal motivators, what are they about? Am I supposed to be motivating everybody there? No, this is what it means. And the motivators, when you're looking at highly motivated people, you're looking at, first of all, looking at you. Is there a sincere appreciation of who I am and who others are? So again, looking back at yourself and maybe looking back at the excellence versus perfectionist realm, where do you fall? Where are you falling in the safety aspect, the psychological safety? Again, you cannot give what you don't have. So let's take a look at that first. Then clarification of my environments and pressures. Do we have clarity? What clarity can I help bring to what we're doing right now? And pressures, yes. There's deadlines, yes. There's limited resources. It's with everything in life. But do I have clarity on what those are? Because it's not the absence of them that's going to motivate them. It's being able to see them and then have the innovation to be able to surpass them. And then positive affirmation. Who I am and how I fit into my environments. And we saw even that in the Google, right? What is my impact? What is the meaning of what I'm doing? And the positive support systems. And this goes back to the governance question, right? And the resources. And if you're in that position of leadership, am I getting the right support systems for my team? If you are in the cross-functional team, what are the supports that we are missing right now that we need to ask for? What are the support systems that I'm looking for? So in personal motivators, they're actually not only for the person, but really for the team. Do you have the positive support systems? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Do you have a place where you can go to be able to get what you need, being in skill, being in knowledge, being in encouragement? Do you have somewhere to go? So when we're looking at that list, immediately starting with us, but also extending it to the team. But now something else to help sustain your team, actually, as we're moving into sustaining our teams, is really, well, there has to be a shared purpose. What are we doing together? How are we doing this together? And what are metrics that we can see? How are we measuring up? Are we getting closer to our goal? Are we doing what we said we're going to do? And are we providing the production that we say we are? So as we're looking at a team, a cross-functional team, providing that clarity, having that motivators in place, taking care of yourself and taking care of the psychological safety of your team as well. But then looking at the shared purpose and measures. A lot of teams, they fail simply because they don't know. I don't know what success looks like in my team. And this question right here is what's going to help you. What does success look like? What is the goal? Is this a temporary team or is this an ongoing team? And you will be able to find that out by seeing what the projects are. These are questions that need to be asked. What are the shared purpose and measures? If you're looking as a company that needs to have that innovation, that you're looking at the place to be viable in the marketplace, these are questions that need to be answered, need to be helped to provide clarity to your teams. So you got to look at the team goals, the practices, the roles. What are the guardrails? What is it safe to try? I mean, how? And that goes along with the budget. Okay, what kind of problem solution do you want us to give to this problem? What level is it? What is the level of impact? What are we looking for? But purpose and measures. What's the meaning? What is the impact of what we're doing? For cross-functional team excellence, you have a shared purpose and you also have shared agreed upon measures. And not just for the team. That means that the people that we're answering to, they're also in agreement with that, right? Because again, we're looking for that alignment. Is our shared purpose aligned to the mission? Is our shared purpose and our measures is in getting us closer to where we want to be as a team, as an individual, as a corporation? And so in sustaining them and having, really, you're looking at the success for those cross-functional teams. what's going to make you not be part of the 75% that fail, it's going to be shared purpose and measures. Why? Because when we know this, then we're more willing to take those risks. Then we're able to have the support, we have the commitment, and this is helping me take on that action. So as we're looking at this part, we have a third aspect to look at too in sustaining them and building your teams. And that is communication. And I know everybody has probably heard, like I get it. I know we gotta listen more, talk less, get all this stuff. Got it. Well, yes, you're right. You have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let's use them accordingly. But not really, what are we talking about in process of communication? Well, basic 4 things. When we're communicating, we're really looking at these 4 things that we're trying to really accomplish. And that is 1, to be understood. We gotta make sure to get our point across so that you understand, where do I come from? The other one is, well, to be accepted. One, seeking an agreement. Do you understand where I come from, and can I get some agreement with this? Well, the third part to that in the process is, well, to get things accomplished, we gotta be doing something. So yeah, you understand me, and finding that acceptance where I can share this about me, but it's in order to get something accomplished. And 4th, which is the highest plane of communication, and this so that I can understand you. So understanding others. So as we are going through that process internally in communication, we're looking to be understood, we're looking to be accepted, we're looking to do something with the information I'm sharing, but most of all, I'm looking to understand others, understand the world that's around me, and understand that just because we are different doesn't mean you're wrong. And that, my friends, goes in my framework of excellence. It's really the process of communication. You want to have excellence in the cross-functional teams. It is you striving to get to the 4th level, which is to understand others. So I know I mentioned to you about failure proof, right? The odds are a little bit against us, but not really, not when you put these things into place. And again, this all goes back to, well, the value. How are we valuing one another? And in order to failure proof, Hannah, can we really failure proof our teams? Yes, because you are never failing if you're always learning. You see, excellence is not about never making a mistake. It's not about not, making sure everything's right all the time. But it's really that striving, that hope, that seeking to understand, that communication, that this one action, and us talking to one another and having the support that we need in an environment that has in place for us. Yes, we can move to the next step. We may not get it right, but we're always going to learn. So how do I do that? How do I continue to learn? Well, you start by writing down just 3 questions. And really take those questions for yourself. And these are questions that you can help facilitate your team with. And this goes back again to the framework. Where am I? And that is, how are you currently embracing failure as a team? Are you embracing failure? Or are you beating yourself up and beating everybody else around you up? What is that culture? As a leader, what can you do to create that shift in that culture? Well, how are you learning as a team? Because it's not just like, okay, hey, at least we tried. I get it. It's fun to play, but and you don't have to win, but my goodness, it's so much more fun when you win, right? We want to win. So how are you learning as a team? How are you getting ready for those wins? How are you getting ready to, like, okay, we missed this mark, but we're getting that momentum going, and just a little, we just strive one more and one more and one more, right? And how are you integrating the lessons and moving forward in your organization's vision and mission? Because it's not just good that you know, and it's not just good that I know, is how do we know that they all know every time? I asked it, I asked the question, the all, right? So how are you integrating those lessons? How am I making this real for me? And how am I helping the growth and learning for the organization? And that really, as a cross-functional team, the excellence can come from that. Because you, as a member or as someone who's building them, you have the ability, the influence to be able to change processes that are going to help the organization be more profitable, serve more people, and you're not operating in an atmosphere of fear that we won't be here. You're not playing not to lose. You're playing to win. And I'm sure most of you have seen those teams when you say, man, they're playing not to lose. No, we're not doing that in the marketplace. We're playing to win. The cross-functional teams can help you set up to help you play to win. And what is it that we're winning for? What does winning look like? Well, that goes back to our vision, our mission, and our values. The successful and excellent cross-functional team will always go back to its core. And that is, what is the vision? How do we see this world operating when we get this done? The mission of how we're making that a reality, and the values. The values is the framework, it's the things that it is part of our DNA on how we're doing it. And for some of you may have heard of Nelson Mandela, a great leader. He says that action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action, well, that's merely daydreaming. But vision with action, that can change the world. And you can do that through the excellence in your cross-functional teams. So as you're going forward in your vision, your mission, your values, and as you are empowering other team members to do so, remember that the world awaits, and it's awaiting for you. And with that, we have discussed about the skills of the cross-functional teams. What is it that they do? There's differentiators. We've leveraged the communication to sustain them and understood the core continuous team development. And I would like to invite you to further on your learning. There's so much more to learn in each one of these areas. And we have 4 coming up workshops, and you can share right here. You can take a look in the website, get further information for dates. I know we have a couple of classes starting tomorrow and next week, but I'll be very, very glad to help you out with that. And I know Mike is here. He's going to be joining in soon to take on your learning to the next level and take action, and massive action, because truly the world does await. So Mike.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah. If anyone has any questions, please do take a moment to type them into the questions box, and we'll get to them shortly. And if anyone is interested in the material presented in this webinar, or if you have questions regarding available course offerings, please do contact your local New Horizons Center for further information. You can log on to newhorizons.com and do a zip code search to find the center nearest you. You can also find our webinar schedule. It's up to date on our website, again, newhorizons.com. Just click on the webinars link to view the full schedule and register for any upcoming sessions. And a friendly reminder that we will be sending out the recording link to today's webinar later today. So you mentioned at the very beginning, Hannah, that it is Cybersecurity Week. How does all this tie into cybersecurity?
Well, it's about human behavior, right? I mean, when we talk about cybersecurity and looking at what is cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is about having the people, the processes, and the technology coming together. So the big part here is the people. And if we, like I mentioned to you earlier with the different studies, is really about how the people are feeling and what are the behaviors that are going along with that, because each one of those, according to how they're perceiving, right, either if they feel like they belong, there's meaning, there's impact, if they can take risks, it's going to affect their behavior. Well, with cybersecurity, that's a big part of the learning, right? With now that you're utilizing artificial intelligence to really study what the behavior, meaning what level of access do you need, is the requirement for what you need to do, for the function that you need to do. Also, the integrations of the systems, because all the systems must be integrated. And on the human behavior part, let's say, for example, that you normally log in every Tuesday between 9 and 12, and suddenly you start logging in every single day at sporadic hours. Well, cybersecurity, with utilizing either biometrics or utilizing the AI, will be able to tell you, hey, there's something going on with the system that is out of the ordinary. Same way with communications and with the cross-functional teams. As we build our rapport, as we're able to have these complex, higher level conversations, we're going to be able to detect either defects or really opportunities for us to be able to seal and to really be able to protect what it is that we're protecting. That's our mission, that's our values, that's our vision, protecting our place in the marketplace. So in the cybersecurity and human behavior, they go hand in hand, because I can't integrate the systems if I'm not communicating. Same way, we can't accomplish what we need to accomplish if we're not integrating not only the communication, but integrating our functions that align to where it is that we want to go.
Thank you. And the next question is, these are great steps to support cross-functional teams. Some people seem to want to stay siloed. How do we motivate and encourage them to work across teams to begin with?
Again, that is true. That is like the number one enemy to cross-functional teams, is that creeping silo. And that comes, well, what is a silo? The perception, what they have found is for the cross-functional teams, what is it? Is that they're competitive. At times it's that competition, and there's no clarity. So how do we do that? Well, it is providing that clarity, and in the environment that goes again with the culture, that goes again with the support of the management. And yes, it is something that people, that's where it's comfortable, right? But when you're talking about cross-functional teams excellence, and you're talking about excellence overall, as a group, you're seeking opportunities where are going to be uncomfortable, get you out of the comfort zone, but that are going to leverage and play to your strengths. So as a leader, what we're looking at with those people that may be a bit hesitant is, one is communication, right? Seeking out where was the understanding coming from, and looking at playing to their strengths. How do we leverage their strengths and the level of comfort, but really going to that next level and getting out of the comfort zone? Now, again, that's going to be key with your support system. And this is not something just a one person, I guess it's called teams, but it's really embracing that person, embracing that individual, and really embracing what is the current culture in our environment, coming to the truth with that, and coming up with solutions on how we can promote and motivate and play to those strengths of the individuals that we want to be part of the cross-functional teams.
Thank you. The next one is, do logistical details matter to the success of cross-functional teams, such as how they communicate, verbally versus written, how often they meet, and so forth?
Well, yes, a team, like if you're not talking, you're not doing, right? You got to talk, you got to have ways, metrics, how, and that goes back to how are you agreeing to communicate, right? This goes with the cross-functional team. So this comes again as a team, what is our commitment, in that we can then be accountable to on how this communication is happening. That's definitely part of the process. Teams that meet often, they are very productive. Now, that doesn't mean just to have meetings for whatever. Some of you may be familiar with Scrum. Scrum is a great way to have fast meetings. There's opportunities for us to talk, but that doesn't replace what our great communication needs to be at. And that is something that takes place when we're first building, or something that you can do right now. How often, how are we communicating? And do personalities vary with this? Of course they do. I mean, some people are more comfortable emailing and not so comfortable having the camera on. Some people just want to be in person, or some people have phone aversion. So you play to the different strengths. However, you have a standard, and what you're doing is incorporating, acknowledging some of these challenges. Some people, they may like, oh, it's just one text only, but giving a little bit of each one. where you still need to have a standard for the level of communication and how often the communication is happening, and the accountability on the communication. Again, all those, as long as it's clear, what is the accountability on that? That's going to help your team succeed. And then some things going to happen organically. I mean, sometimes you just got to get started, and then you'll have an organic growth to it. And then you'll see your team they'll be even more creative and be able to create those opportunities for communication.
Great, great, thank you. And the next one is, are there tools available to help?
Ooh, yes, help with which part? I guess for communication, there's a lot of different tools you can use. Well, you can start with goals, right? When you come together as a team, SMART goals are good. The project management tools, creating project charters. For those of you that may a little bit more in project management, a project charter is good because it tells you the scope of the work. Let's say that this is a team that has come together for something, but it also has a key person there, and that's your team champion. When you have a team champion, that's really the support that I was talking about, where we need that governance support, and that's going to help. That's a tool as far as getting things done. For communication, I advocate of the DISC, the DISC, because that helps you to realize, well, you know, what are the people, how often, even in the communication, what's the best manner of communication, the environment, the perceived pressure. So those are a few that I would say. One, for make sure you have a goals tool, project management tool if you have different functions, different departments communicating with that. There's a lot of different apps, even like the Teams, Microsoft Teams, Asana, even Zoom, because the point with the cross-functional teams, you want to invite that communication. And as the tool gets you started, and the accountability is going to help you with that. But really, as the more opportunities you're able to give it in different ways, I can't speak enough to the innovation that comes across from the teams as you implement different tools. And don't be afraid to try it out. Remember, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for excellence. So if a tool doesn't work out, let's go for the next one and incorporate your team in what tools may help them.
All right. And does it make more sense for teams to select their team leader or have one assigned to them? Does it matter?
Well, you want a team leader that's going to be able to communicate. So I would say initial part is as you're creating ownership, if this is a team that has come organically, it depends, right? Is this a team? How is a team created? Normally, when a team's coming organically and created, a leader will rise up. Different people will come in for the task, and that's really who you want to be able to take the ownership and accountability. But also in the cross-functional team, a key thing that I mentioned before is that they're going to have to be high communicators, because when you have different people from different departments, they have different, what we say, jargons for some people, right? There's different words that may mean something different for the HR versus the software developer person. So you need someone that is in the cross-functional teams that is going to be high in be able to communicate, because you may have to be a translator at times. So working even with, what does that really mean? What does a script mean? I mean, for me, a script and speaking is what I want to say, and then for the other one, a script is a development language, JavaScript. So somebody who would lead a cross-functional team is going to be someone that can communicate and has that patience also to be able to discern between the jargon for each department, because everybody has their own culture in a department. So that's something that you definitely want to be aware of. And of course, somebody who is willing to, right? And has that support. Also somebody who has that rapport with the senior management and other executives, because a lot of the processes, the findings, they're going to have to be communicated, because you need support every step of the way so you can actually implement the solutions that are being brought up.
Thank you. We actually
Yeah.
don't have any more questions, but we have one comment that I really liked. A lot of people are writing and saying, thank you, very insightful and empowering, excellent training. But I really like this one. It spoke to me. Thank you. Setting an expectation of excellence versus perfection is also valuable in parenting.
Yes. Yes,
And
absolutely.
speaking for myself, really all the things you mentioned are valuable in parenting. I mean, making sure that children know that they're valued and they're important and continuous improvement and so forth. So
Yeah.
really,
Oh,
really
yes.
valuable.
No, definitely. I use this. I have 5 children, so and I have 3 of them are teenagers. So that let me tell you that this definitely adding value. Always having that communication. Even again, one of the main things I would tell you is in that communication, the seeking to be understood and the understanding others. That will take you so far. But the perfection and versus excellence, that was freeing. Is freeing in the workplace, is freeing in the family, is freeing in the community. When you realize that, hey, I am striving every day, is striving one step, one small step. And you may have heard this quote, if you can't run, then walk. If you can walk, then crawl. Whatever you do, just do it and do it to the best that you can where you're at right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Very, very insightful, really a valuable session, Hannah. I appreciate it. This does conclude today's session, but thank you again for joining us and for speaking, Hannah. Really, really grateful. And like I say, the comments coming in support it as well. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been my pleasure.